not entering that phrase.
So it doesn't need to be historically true because there is truth in it. There's a greater truth.
A completely different kind of truth.
Yeah. So Richard, I mean, similarly, there are great truths in the Greek fables, aren't there, of mythology. It doesn't need to be true for us to derive truth from it.
The world is full of origin myths and creation myths and myths of all kinds, and many of them are very beautiful. But what worries me about the Bible is that it has acquired, in our civilization, an enormous privileged position. I mean, everybody knows something about the Greek myths and the Valhalla myths and so on, and some other myths as well. And they are interesting, and they're treated as interesting myths. But the Bible myths are given a special privileged treatment. I mean, they're regarded as somehow set off on one side, away from all these other myths. No doubt you'll find truths in the other myths. You'll find some truths of that kind in Australian Aboriginal myths.
Yes, although I'm looking for God.
Well, which God? I mean, why not Jupiter? Why not Zeus? Why not Thor?
Yes.
I think that... Mr. Michael, allow me to stay over here just for hear Richard out. Yeah, go on.
Well, that's about it, really. I mean, I object to the way...
I hope there's more to come from you.
I was simply objecting to the way the Judeo-Christian myth has permeated our society to such an enormous extent, as though somehow it has special truths which are not to be found in other myths. And I don't think there's much truth to be found in any myths, as a matter of fact, but certainly there's no reason why the Judeo-Christian myth should be given this privileged status. And as for it not being literally true, of course, sophisticated theologians and historians don't think it's literally true, but 40%, 45% of the American people believe literally in Adam and Eve, believe literally that the world is only 6,000 years old. I mean, that's a shocking figure, and you can't duck out of it by saying, oh, sophisticated theologians don't believe it. Unfortunately, what sophisticated theologians believe isn't really relevant to what the majority of Christians do believe.
Chris, I think, Richard, cue Chris from the Evangelical Alliance, if I may, because you believe it's all true, don't you?
I do, yeah.
So you believe that, you know, Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark, you believe, to just take something, Genesis 19:5, two angels came to Lot's house in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, he was the only righteous man in the village, and the locals wanted to know the angels. They wanted to homosexually rape the angels. So Lot offered his virgin daughters instead as an appeasement. Sodom and Gomorrah was demolished after that, and his wife turned into a block of salt when she looked back. You believe that happened?
I take my cues from Jesus, who we've already agreed is historically
did that
accurate.
happen?
I believe that Jesus believed the Old Testament to be historically accurate.
Do you believe that that happened?
I believe it happened because Jesus did.
But
I don't think
Nikki,
we know whether Jesus believed it happened or not.
Yeah.
And I believe that appalling, horrendous, horrific story was talking about obedience to God and various other things. It was not about you know, is it literally true, and you know, should we believe it? And we have absolutely no idea whether.
But he was the most righteous man in the village, and he offered his virgin daughters as appeasement. What were the rest like?
Well, appalling.
Nikki,
but you see, it was written about people by men, and they were usually men. With a certain worldview understanding. I mean, if you
what
go
Richard has identified
yes.
is there are an awful lot of people in the world who, like Krish, believe it's all true.
Yes, but I think Chris would
you're,
also say that the most important thing about it, and don't let me put words in your mouth, is that it points to a bigger truth. Yeah. And you say, well, why should the Bible get privileged status? Is because because the other myths that you were referring to earlier have contained truths that we as human beings all resonate to, but perhaps the Bible, taken, opens a window onto truth that has endured, that we see our own human natures spelled out in the pages of the Bible. We can relate to what's going on, and we find a truth that endures.
Adrian Thatcher.
Well, it isn't even true that Jesus